That's drill bit.
What's up guys, it's Drillbit Beats, back here again today with another video. We're going to do a review of a plugin, a little bit different video format than what I normally do with the cookups and such, so hopefully you'll enjoy this. Today we are going to be reviewing the Knock plugin by Decap. Drums that knock, if you've played with any of his sound packets, anything like that, you know that they're very high quality. He recently dropped this as a plugin that allows you to kind of mimic some of those same tonalities and some of those same processing effects he uses on his drum kits to be able to be used essentially in your own mixes, your own productions, and help those drums stand out. I have fallen in love with this plugin. I use it on things other than drums all the time. I use it to create 808s as well as various other things. So let's go ahead and jump over here and I'll show you a couple of the examples on what things that you could use the Decap plugin on. Without any of the knock being added to this here. Alrighty, so essentially once you get into the plugin, you've got a couple of different things here in terms of settings and as well as a couple of different features. You have your punch knob here. It's going to correlate here with the green. What that's going to do here, I'll go ahead and play it on solo so you can hear. Really starts to grab those transients and start to make it pump. You can see it's kind of shaping the transient here. The more we drive it, the more you're picking up that first transient. Next option here, you got 3 different versions of saturation. So you'll see here. Start to get that nice fat kind of like compression and saturation of all the transients together. The cool thing is you do have 3 different versions of the saturation, so you do also have the secondary version. As well as this top setting here where you can really see it's extreme. Alrighty, moving back over to the next knob here. This is where things get kind of interesting. The sub knob here has a couple of different functions. So one thing that it allows you to do is you'll notice that the kick drum in this, for example, doesn't have a lot of low end thud to it. So depending on the key of the song you're in, you can actually select this as your root. And then you can do a couple of things here. So if you double click after you've added some basically juice to this, you can actually hear it will solo. If you double click on sub, you can then bring in these are all the sub frequencies that are being generated from that drum loop we were just playing. So obviously if you wanted to, you can either create your own subwoof, your own kind of sub here, changing the key for whatever key you would be in, for example. And then the other thing here that's kind of neat is you can kind of tailor the decay on it. So you can either make it a long kind of flat, like just kind of flubbery 808, if you will, versus a shorter, more tame kind of just a punch to add the low end to your kicks. I do find that I use this quite a bit for various different things, but generally on sub. Other thing that's cool here is you can use it on 808s, as I'll show you here in a moment. There's a couple of different things you can do with this. For the time being here and the instance of kind of showing you what it does, we'll bring it back in with everything else. So you can really hear that sub if you have headphones on here that are just kind of flopping around there in the low end. Obviously an extreme example, but it would give you the idea of kind of the different options that you can do, tailoring that in. So we'll go ahead and turn that off for now. Moving over, the next thing that you have here as a button that you can kind of play with is the air. Think about this as kind of the top band EQ. It's going to give you kind of that nice crisp top end shelf, as well as a little bit of sizzle. The vintage here, as well as the clean. I feel like the clean is good on like your more hip hoppy kind of things. For example, the boom bat sample that we're using right now, I feel like the vintage probably sounds a little bit better, but it is nice that it gives you both of the flavors. You notice all the real high end frequency information kind of gets a boost. And then obviously under the clean, you kind of get a little bit more of that mid presence back as opposed to just the top end. Also kind of gives things a little bit more clarity. And then one of the other things that's really neat here is you actually have a built-in clipper. If you've ever used the clipper in, say, Fruity Loops or any of the other DAWs, or if you've ever used even just the soft clipper here in Logic, there's a couple of different ways you can use this, though. You can actually do hard clipping. You pull it all the way over to this edge. As you can see, it's literally just going to smack the transients off. Or you can actually come back over and do a little bit more of a soft clipping setup with it, which would allow you then to kind of dial in the amount of clipping that you would want as well to kind of drive that signal. You'll notice never clips. It is catching all the transients based on where we have it set. Going back over, you get more of the hard clipping effect. Now, one other feature that's kind of nice here, if you're doing a complex mix, you don't want to kind of kill the dynamic that you have going in the mix. You do have the gain batch function here where it will match the original gain based on what you're doing here, so that's kind of nice. There is also this setting here where you've got a couple of different modes of rendering quality that you can use within the app. And then there's also this nice tone switch here. So what the tone switch does, and this is kind of unique, you'll notice as I twist, I start to get a high shelf. So now it's boosting and it's favoring things on the high end frequencies. Or I can do any blend of that back to the far extreme, where now we're kind of boosting that low shelf. And then any iteration of it in between. In terms of the tone and the EQ sections within the plugin, you do have a low cut here. The further I pull this, the more of the frequencies that get pulled off from the bottom. Other thing that's kind of cool in a mix, you can actually automate these little sliders here. So there are different things that you can automate within this preset as well. And same concept here, pulling it off the top. And then you also have your dry wet knob to give you the blend of each, as well as your output. The app does, or the plugin rather, I keep calling it an app. The plugin though rather does come with a couple of different presets here, right from Decap, that'll help you kind of beef up your signal. We'll go ahead and click through those on this preset just so you can kind of hear the different ones. You can hear it automatically just beefs everything up. That one has a little bit more of the top end sizzle, a little bit more of the transient sounds. It kind of gives you an idea of what you could do with just a basic drum loop. The next thing that I kind of wanted to go over, though, is the fact that, like as we were mentioning, if you didn't have that low end, you'll notice that this other loop that I have here, it's got a great kick, but it's kind of lacking that low end punch. If we didn't have an 808 in this, for example, as I was mentioning, we can come back over here. We'll bring in a little bit of this, solo out the sub so we can hear. Helps if I have it put in the right plug-in here. So we'll go ahead here on this next channel, engage it. Turn on gain matching. So all I'm doing right now is just grabbing a little bit of that kick transient. Go ahead and pull this down so we're not going to clip on the signal here. A little bit more transient there, and then if I want to add that low end back as we were doing earlier, and then immediately you can see we'll start getting kind of that low end sub. So if we turn it off, so not only can I add kind of that low end in, but then if I feel like it's getting too muddy, another option I have is to bring some of the top back. little bit of the lows out of it. And then we'll bring this decay time just a little bit further down so it's not quite as loose. And then if I decide that I wanted to blend the two, pull this guy back just a little bit. And just like that, you've got a great mix on a set of drums that was otherwise without it. Did you hear how crazy that is? Alrighty, so then a couple of other things that I like to use this plugin for that not drums related at all, actually. So I do like to use the piano here as an example. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn on knock with the piano here. I'll go ahead and I'll loop up this piano that we have here, this sample. So without knock on it at all, come in here and grab just a little bit of this guy. Accent the individual notes of the piano there with the transient designer. Dirty up the sample a little bit, some saturation. Do you hear how warm that is? In a piano, I wouldn't want any sub frequency, so we'll go ahead and leave that out of here. And then we'll just add some of this top end on here for this piano. Real pretty shimmery top end. So again, without it, with it. Without it. So you could really start to see where this is actually usable on more than just drums. I get that it's catered towards drums. That's kind of what Decap's game is. That's where he's known for, and the different various sample packs that he's created. But it's actually a super usable tool for various different things. In fact, one last thing that I like to show, that I kind of found that I like to use it on, especially on female vocals. If you have any kind of ad-libs, anything like that you want to add kind of that top end crisp to, the cool thing is you come in here. So with no knock whatsoever on it, go ahead and engage knock. Bring in some of this top end air. And just a little bit of this gritty saturation. Just a touch of the compression and the transient design. Bring a little of the top shelf back in so it favors those top frequencies. And then we'll back off our wet dry knob. So without it. With it. You can hear it really accents the top range frequencies within the reverb and things like that on that voice. With it. Without it. So yeah, that's going to do it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed looking over the Decap Drums That Knock plugin. Knock is super, super useful. It seems to find a way on almost all of my productions since I downloaded it. It is available down in the description here. I'll leave a direct link to it so it's easy to find for you. I believe it's $99. Unfortunately, because I don't have the hookup with Decap, don't have any kind of a discount code or anything like that for you. But just thought I would like to show you kind of some out-of-the-box ways that I use the plugin and some different tricks and techniques that I've found while playing with it that have kind of helped take my productions up a notch. So without any further ado, hope you guys have a great day. And if you haven't yet, please do hit the subscribe button. Really helps grow the channel. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.